fans, welcome back to Room 237 as I continue my marathon of Italian horror and Giallo films. And I have another Giallo, and it is the last of the Sergio Martino Giallo films that I have. I still have one more non-Giallo from him to do. But this is the 5th Giallo of his that I'm doing, 5th out of 8 that he's done. And this is actually his second Giallo. This is the second one he ever did after Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward, which was my last review. Excellent movie. And this came out the same year, 1971, and it is The Case of the Scorpion's Tail, which this is just a cheap, no-shame DVD that I picked up. There is an Arrow Blu-ray that I would like to get because another solid one for Sergio Martino. His first 5 Giallo films are, without a doubt, some of the best Gialli I've ever seen. I'm not sure where... this one would definitely be an honorable mention for my top 10. Still very, very solid. I didn't like it as much as Mrs. Ward, Vices of Locked Rome. Maybe not All Colors of the Dark. Certainly not Torso. But it's still a very solid Giallo film. A very good mystery. Get a good mix of police procedural as well. He co-wrote it with a frequent collaborator, Ernesto Gastaldi. Music by Bruno Nicolai, which has a great score. And it stars some of the usual Martino cast members, like lead is George Hilton, whom I really like as a Giallo lead. Only instead of Edwidge Fenech in this, we get Anita Strindberg, who... she was in Lizard and Woman's Skin. She was in Your Vices of the Locked Room, Only I Had the Key. She's in Who Saw Her Die, which I haven't done yet. I do have it, and I will be doing that. But she does very well in this. But we also have Alberto Di Mendoza, who I'm pretty sure was the husband, Neil, in Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward. Yeah, he was. And then the other inspector was actually Luigi Pistoli, who was also who was the sort of abusive husband in Your Vices of the Locked Room and Only I Had the Key. So you get a great cast. They're all utilized very well. And it still deals with inheritance, insurance, and stuff like that. The Scorpion's Tail is a very, very, very small aspect of the film, but it is what leads to catching the killer at the end, which has always been one of my favorite aspects of Giallo, is when the title is this absolute tiny detail that leads to catching the killer. And actually, from what I've read, Sergio Martino was actually what inspired, and this is debatable, it's not fact, some of the violence, especially in this, because this ups the ante with blood and kills, is what inspired Argento to make Deep Red and Suspiria more bloody and more violent. Of course, it's debatable, but judging by how Burned with Crystal Plumage is bloody, but not as much. And I think same with Cat of Nine Tails, which is actually another one that I need to review, because I've had it since I did my first marathon, but I didn't do it back then for whatever reason. So, it's debatable, but if Martino did inspire Argento to be more violent and bloody, then all the more reason why Martino deserves to be held up with the same level of respect as Argento, Bava, Fulci, etc. You do get some great Martino camera work. There's some great style done with this one as well. Like, there's this great, almost like a pendulum tracking shot between this interrogation between Pistoli and Hilton, where each on one side of the desk, and the camera it's shot sideways, but goes from Pistoli to Hilton, almost like a pendulum. Great looking shot. Even the kills, some of the kills are styled very well. Like when this one character gets stabbed, the blood, she's like up against a window, so the blood like sprays against the glass. And of course, it's that early 70s, really thick, almost like vibrant red paint or like tomato paste, which I've always loved the look of that. I know it's incredibly fake looking, but I've always loved it. The POV shots in this aren't as... They have more of a Black Christmas feel, like more of like a warped wide angle shot than, say, just a shot that's supposed to look like POV. Like, it has this almost like a, let's go like that wide angle shot for the POV, which I really enjoy. And I mean, it's got good pace, it's got good twists and turns. When it got to the twist at the end, I mean, Martino always gets me. And it's always a twist that makes sense. But the story with this, and also another great aspect is, I don't know if it was inspired by Psycho. I know a lot of movies were. But there is sort of a Psycho setup where the woman in the beginning of the film, who we think is going to be the one to carry us throughout, is killed 25 minutes in. I don't know if that's a spoiler, but... Well, not really, because it even says... It even says on the back when the widow herself is killed, so... it's not really a spoiler, it's a major plot point. But, 25 minutes in, you kind of get lost in the world of the film. And so then when it actually happens, you're like, whoa, shit, they just killed the star. Which, it doesn't even... Oh. Ida Gali plays the widow. So the story is, it opens up with this couple having sex, and it's intercut with shots of this airplane, which is obviously a model, but it doesn't look like an Ed Wood model. It actually looks cool looking. And then right when the couple's done having sex, the plane explodes. And we find out that this couple is actually an affair, and the woman's husband was on the plane. And she's set to inherit $1 million from him. But before she can leave with the $1 million with her lover, she's killed. And so then insurance fraud investigator Peter Lynch, played by George Hilton, is sent to investigate it. And then, of course, he becomes wrapped up in a murder investigation after she's killed, along with this photographer, reporter, Cleo, played by Strindberg, who they start a relationship together, as she's attacked as well. And it all leads to finding the money. Because first it looks suspicious why she wanted the money cashed, like put in cash immediately and quickly, and why she was making phone calls to flee the area. up until her murder. And so then a lot of the film is Hilton, Strindberg, de Mendoza, and Pistoli trying to solve this murder, or this entire sprawling case. And after Strindberg is attacked in her home, which, we have the killer here, we have George Hilton, because they think Hilton is responsible. And there's several red herrings. I mean, there's I think 7 kills in this. They find a sort of custom-made golden cufflink in the shape of a scorpion. And that's what leads to them finding the killer. It's got great pacing. It's got a good twist. It doesn't seem too convoluted like a lot of Giallo films when it deals with this kind of twist and inheritance and stuff like that. It can seem kind of convoluted, but I would even say all the cast members they're all great characters. Even though Hilton and Strindberg have great chemistry, part of me did wish it was Fennec in this role, just because I think they go great together. But I think de Mendoza, Pistoli, they were great as well, especially Pistoli, who seems to be this really sarcastic, disgruntled inspector. Another one of the kills is when the lover gets killed, and I mean, he gets like a broken bottle to his eye, and it happens quick, but we see it. We see the glass go in his eye, and then we see like all the viscera around it after he's dead. There's even some nice Martino plugs in there, like, because after he's dead, leaning against the bed with the bottles sticking out of his eye, the TV in the background is like, and now, as you can see, America's still young, and we can all see. Just cool little moments like that. But I guess with that, I'll get into spoilers. But before I do, this is yet another solid Giallo from Sergio Martino, making it his first 5: Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward, Case of the Scorpion's Tail, Vices in the Locked Room, and Only I Had the Key, All Colors of the Dark, and Torso. All some of the greatest gialli I've ever seen. This one, even though I may say this is, I don't want to say the weakest or the worst, because it's still a great movie. I would say it's not as strong as the others. I would say the others are better, but this is still very, very, very solid. It's got a great script. It's, all the performances are well done. All the characters are utilized wonderfully. They're all characters. They're not they're not all just Giallo fodder. Like, it's not just the inspector, the partner. They all have personalities. They're all characters. It's got great pacing, a great score by Bruno Nicolai, and it's utilized wonderfully. I mean, there's this great tracking shot in the beginning when the widow is walking through the park, and she's encountered and blackmailed by a previous lover of hers who's turned into a heroin junkie. And there's just this great tracking shot behind her as she's walking through this park. And, it's got this great score. Like, it's like layers of sitar and, just sort of, again, like that Cannibal Holocaust kind of mellow sound. And then, like, with this intensifying beat over all of it. So he's got a great score. I definitely recommend this. Either get the cheap No Shame DVD like I have, or get the Arrow Blu-ray. That's probably more worth it. But even with this, it looks pretty decent. But yeah, Case of the Scorpion's Tail, very solid. Still a great Giallo. Another reason why Sergio Martino is... I think I can confidently say at this point, Sergio Martino is my favorite Italian director. Above both Bava's, Argento, and Fulci. Just the ratio from good films to bad, I have yet to see a bad one from him. I know there's some, like, I've heard Suspicious Death of a Minor is not that great, but so far I've yet to see a poor film from him. The only one I have left is Mountain of the Cannibal God, which I'll check out at some point, still during this marathon. But as far as Giallo goes, 5 for 5, very solid. And yeah, I definitely recommend Case of the Scorpion's Tail. So with that, we'll get to spoilers. So, eventually, after Strindberg is attacked, and they find the Scorpion cufflink, she corroborates that Hilton is not the one that attacked her. In fact, he's the one that chased the attacker away. They decide to play it off like, we're gonna allow the public to keep thinking that you're a person of interest. So play a wanted person, and then hopefully this guy won't go into hiding and we can kind of lure him out. But Hilton decides to stay low, and him and Strindberg decide to spend some time away out on his yacht. And while that's going on, De Mendoza is looking into the cufflink and finds out you can only have it made in certain areas like Turkey and Iran. And we also see that the lover of the widow, even though he's with this other woman as well, she's a hostess. And so we kind of get the idea, and we even see her with the cufflinks at one point. So it kind of strings us along into thinking he has a role in this somehow. So at one point, Hilton says he's going to go fishing with a harpoon. So he goes under. She decides that she wants to go with him, but she can't. The flippers don't fit. So she just has to stay on the surface and kind of watch him. And she notices he goes into this underwater cave. And he comes out with, it does show that he has like an empty bag or something. And she finds that kind of suspicious. So he goes in for a nap. And while he's sleeping, she takes his flip. Yeah, she does take flippers. But she decides to go into the cave herself. And she finds buried in the rocks is a plastic bag with the case and all the cash from the widow, all $1 million. And then he finds her. And that's when he confesses that, you know, he's been doing this insurance fraud investigation for years, never comes out ahead, makes pitiful money. So when he saw that she was supposed to inherit, the widow was supposed to inherit $1 million, he saw that as like a big payday. He also saw that she was promiscuous and prone to infidelity. So he actually hired this guy, Paolo, the lover, to start an affair with her. But she fell in love with him, and when she was to run away with him quickly, he had to improvise. So the two of them were in cahoots, and so obviously, you know, he killed his partner when he chased off the attacker, it was the lover. And also there was this other group of people, like the husband was actually going to leave the widow for this other woman, which we see her get killed with her bodyguard. I'm not sure who it was that did that murder. I think it was the lover, Paolo. But anyway, so then, he offers Strindberg, do you want to come away with me with this money? She doesn't want to. She tries to call the cops with the radio, but it doesn't work. There's an ensuing chase. Then eventually, cops show up. They shoot him. And they were able to figure him out because... okay, maybe it's a little convoluted. I'm trying to remember it now. The cufflink, they realized it had to have been planted there because there's only one way to get it, and that is from Turkey or Iran. And they realized that a stewardess had a pin that was a scorpion that was made exactly the same. And they knew about sort of her boyfriend being involved somehow, and he had the cufflinks. And they realized that pretty much the only person that could have planted the scorpion cufflink there was Hilton. So that's how they knew it was him. And it ends with Strindberg, getting in a car and going away. I might have been a little off on some of these details. I'll admit that now, but, that's the basic gist of it. But it's very... it's a lot better than how I explained it, but it's a very solid Giallo. Martino, again, you done it again. I'll still say Mrs. Ward, Vice is Locked Room, Torso. All Colors of the Dark was definitely more stylish. This was more of a procedural Giallo, murder mystery. But still excellent. Still a great movie. Very solid Giallo. I enjoyed it very much. And I'm going to have 20 honorable mentions for my top 10 because they've all got to be mentioned. But, yeah. Case of the Scorpion's Tail. Another great Giallo from Sergio Martino. My favorite Italian director. I'll have to say that now. And, yeah, solid film. So, yeah. So that's that movie. And stay tuned for more Italian horror and Giallo films. Thank you for watching.